Episode 76 of People I Know Show. Curt Carstensen joined today by Matt.
Let's go.
Bish, it's great to see you. How's it going today?
Hey, today started off really tough, to be honest. My cousin, who I consider a brother, him and I are really close. He went in the hospital because he had a heart attack. And so my morning started off with my mom saying, I texted you because your cousin James went in the hospital because he thinks he had a heart attack. And James and I are super close, and thank the Lord, we've got some good results. James and I have been texting this morning. He's in his hospital room. Right now he's in an angiogram. But so that's how literally I woke up and my mom told me that. And I'm like, so I started the morning just bawling and tears. But as far as I know, he's feeling better. He's in this hospital room, and but then so I got that right off the bat, and then my back flared up this morning. So I'm trying to get through the emotions of my cousin, who's 35. He's about 4 years older than me. He almost has a heart attack, or he did. And then my back is about about an 8 to a 10 on the pain scale right now. So,
Matt, as we're going to get into your story, but it sounds like the positive and the negative, you're up and down in your life and with your family, with more to deal with today. I hope good news only comes out of this, but
right.
Just endless scares, it seems like. But I want to talk first about us and how we even know each other. You're on People I Know show, and we haven't seen each other in person in a long time. Our time where we'd cross paths goes back to St. Cloud State. I was there right before you started, I think we determined. Sure. I graduated in 2006. You got there in 2007?
Yeah, 2000. I graduated high school in 2006. In 2007. So 2007, 2008 would have been my first year at St. Cloud State.
Okay, and I was gone by then, but I would make some appearances and had a lot of good friends there at the time. So we ended up becoming friends for a few years as we ran in some of the same circles. I've got my KVSC 88.1 FN sweatshirt. I was co-sports director there, assistant news director, and I know you got involved with the sports play-by-play there. Then I was working for the Northwoods League, and you ended up getting a couple play-by-play gigs in that league. You was doing sports broadcasting. That's what gotten me into really St. Cloud State and all that. So our career paths were going to a similar place, but then I got out of sports in 2012, and I guess you can fill in some dots there between 2007 and 2012, but then from then on, things started to change for you. So you take the story wherever you think is relevant based on what I just said.
Oh, man. Well, so I was a tower camera operator at Canterbury Park in the summer of 2008 and 2009, right? So 2009 comes around, and I'm like, well, I had been working at KVSC, like your shirt says. I'd been working there. I just started as sports director there, and I wanted to get into sports play-by-play. And I talked to some people, and they said, the best route to go was through the Northwoods League. And so I reached out to you because someone gave me your name. I reached out to you and I said, can you help me get into this league? And, you gave me a couple of openings that you knew of, but Alexandria seemed to be the place to go. and we had a connection with that place because the Alexandria Beatles at the time were were the team that he worked for. So got in touch with Sean Riley, who was the owner and GM and stuff, and I got hired pretty quick. And yeah, so I spent the entire year of 2009 leading up to the summer of 2010, like preparing for that job as director of media relations and play-by-play for the Alexandria Beatles.
That was my old title there.
Yeah. So yeah, I got my first. I consider it my first real like legit play-by-play broadcasting gig. Before that, in high school and early college, I was doing just local public access TV sports as far as play-by-play goes. So doing that, going to school at St. Cloud State, working at Canterbury in the summers, and then 2010 working for the Beatles. Worked there, but then I stayed in St. Cloud in the summer of 2011 to take a class and finish up some stuff there and work there. And then December 2011, I graduated college with my bachelor's at St. Cloud State in mass communications with an emphasis in radio and a minor in athletic coaching. And let's see, that was 2011. 2012, I was trying to find a broadcasting job, but I lived in St. Cloud, so I decided just to stay there. Got a job at Applebee's, summer hits, and the radio guy for the Rocks, who used to be the St. Cloud River Bats, but then they got that owner kind of sold the team, and then they rebranded into the St. Cloud Rocks, and their radio guy that they hired like 6 games into the season got hired in the USHL. His name is Zach Fish. He's now in the AHL as the voice of the Hershey Bears. So he's actually called a few Washington Capitals games.
I didn't. So he was another KVSC guy right at the time you were there. So St. Cloud State producing the likes of us and Zach Fish and many others.
Yeah. And now he's a step away from the NHL.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is crazy. But the Caps guy had to do Olympics hockey. So Zach had to fill in a couple of games. So he's done NHL games and then preseason games. So KVSC in St. Cloud has produced a lot of guys. The Northwoods League has produced a lot of guys. But to wrap it all around, the Rocks needed a guy quick. They needed local. And I was just working at KVSC, I was working at Applebee's trying to find a job in sports broadcasting, and the Rocks called me, and I worked it out with Applebee's, and next thing I know, I'm broadcasting on the radio for the St. Cloud Rocks the summer of 2012. And then
that was my final summer with the Northwoods League. I left that gig.
Yeah.
I probably saw you that summer, and I haven't seen you since, but I know your life has been down a different path for much of the last 8 years. So when did that all start happening, and what happened?
So I got diagnosed with cancer the first time, and I got diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in late September, early October of 2012. And then I went through chemo at the University of Minnesota Children's Hospital from 2012 to 2014. Within that, I worked at Canterbury the summer of 13, and then I got a job with the Minnesota Lynx as a PR intern, PR associate for the 2014 season. So I was working in the WNBA, which is pretty sweet, in 2014. But I still had cancer at the time. But I was just doing maintenance. I was in remission, but I was still in maintenance. But I was able to work in the WNBA, which was crazy. They were just coming off a championship year. They were favored to win it again, but we lost, I think, to the Mercury or something in WNBA Western Conference Finals. So we didn't make it back to the WNBA Finals. I think the Fever won it that year. And but then I was cancer free. And I was like trying to find a job. I was just doing some local public access TV bits and working as a bartender at a bowling alley. And then I got the call for Crookston, where I got hired by KRX Radio in Crookston, Minnesota. Moved up there in November of 2014, and worked there for about a year, where I was cancer free. Life was going good. Met a girl who had just been finishing up her basketball playing career. Her name was Katie Hodek, and we met at Rhombus Guy's Pizza one night because we had a mutual friend, and she had been done with her basketball career at UND, where she had a full ride there. She's from a small town in North Dakota called Grafton, and I was living in Crookston, so we were half an hour apart. She was in Grand Forks, I was in Crookston. We met one night, and I was cancer free, so things were good. But then we were dating for about 4 months before the cancer came back.
In that,
just a routine MRI showed that the cancer may have been back, and then it was confirmed by just a PET scan.
In that time where you were cancer free and living life normal again, what was your level of concern, or what did doctors tell you that, like, the risk of it coming back? Were you aware of a high risk, low risk? What was it like?
Well, anytime you get cancer, man, it's like you're pretty much walking on eggshells, in the sense of, yeah, I was cancer free, but with being cancer free, you're still walking on eggshells, because anything can happen where cancer can come back. They didn't give me a percentage of, Matt, here's, you're cancer free, but there's a 50% chance of cancer coming back. They didn't give me any numbers like that. So I mean, I wasn't living. Sorry, I have really bad back pain right now, so I apologize to everybody watching. If I move a lot, it's just to get comfortable. But yeah, I mean, in the back of your head, it's there. But like, I was working, I was playing City League basketball once a week with just guys around town. I lived a normal social life, playing softball, umpiring, that kind of thing, like just normal. But then just one MRI, man, and the doctor's like, "Hey, I need you to come back."
And what happens in round 2 like that? How is it different than the first time?
Difference from the first time was round 1, I was treated as a pediatric. So I was 23 when I was when I found out I had cancer the first time. So I was just kind of at that point where you're young enough and the type of cancer I have, where the University of Minnesota Children's Hospital was the best plan of action. When cancer came back, obviously it was older and they couldn't treat me at the Children's Hospital. So I had to go to the University of Minnesota Medical Center Hospital. And that's where I started December of 2015. I started my chemo again, and I had a PET scan that confirmed everything. And it was literally, I was at the hockey rink in Crookston. I was at practice watching girls hockey practice, getting ready to broadcast the game the next night. And this Dr. Veronica Bakanova from the University of Minnesota called me. She goes, Matt, pack your bags, like we need to start chemo tomorrow. I'm 5 hours away, right? So luckily, I had, being a born and bred Minnesotan and then living up in Northwest Minnesota, I had a hockey bag full of hockey skates and gear and stuff. And hockey bags are pretty, big bags. So dumped that out and just started throwing stuff in. I was just throwing shirts, throwing underwear, throwing pants, throwing my Xbox, throwing anything I could think of.
You probably should throw your Xbox. You should gently place your Xbox in there.
Yeah. But it was in there. It was in there. But I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But sure enough, the next day, I was in the hospital at the U of M on, I don't know what room number it was, but I know it was in Unit 7D at the University of Minnesota. That night, I didn't do any chemo. I just kind of got settled. But the next day, man, four things of chemotherapy for 4 days at a time. I do 4 chemo treatments a day, 4 days at a time. I go home back to my parents' house in Blaine for 2 weeks. And that was 1 cycle. So that was 1A. Then it was time for 1B. So then it was 4 days of 4 chemos a day. And then I was back home for a week or 2 weeks. And then I was 1B. So then now we were at 2A, right? So it's 4 or 5 days where I was in the hospital straight, getting chemo and radiation. And I hadn't had radiation before. That was another difference. I'm sorry I didn't mention. Second time around is when radiation showed up. Before in 2012 to 14, I just had chemo and no radiation. But then 14, because the cancer was more serious, they added radiation on. So 2A was 4 days of chemo and radiation 4 times a day. Yeah, 4 times a day. And then 2 weeks at home, then back for 4 times a day. So 16. Yeah. So that was leading me up to a bone marrow transplant.
And that was all involved in that the second time, like you knew that once you got through all the treatments, then you would need the transplant?
Correct. Because if I didn't do the transplant and just did chemo or whatever, there was like a 90-some% chance of the cancer coming back a third time.
Okay.
A third time. And then if it comes back a third time, then not the best. So the only chance of me staying alive was to do a bone marrow transplant.
And what's that like? I mean, I don't know what any of this is like really, but the bone marrow transplant, what's that process like then?
Anticlimactic, to be honest. I did cord blood. So, some people have to wait for a donor or whatever, but I did cord blood. So it was just it was like we were all prepping for this big event, but it turned out to be this little bag of pink fluid that had to be pretty much put into me through a tube that was connected to my chest. And it was took about 20-25 minutes. I laid in my hospital bed and a nurse administered it. I had my parents, my uncle, and my sister in the room with me. My wife was 5 hours away, sadly. She wasn't able to be there with me due to, I think it was school or something. She was doing her grad program, her master's at UND. So she was 5 hours away. And I didn't feel any pain or anything like that. I just laid in bed and I felt kind of a funny taste in my mouth, and I did like those Lifesavers fruit chews or whatnot, because otherwise my mouth would have tasted like cooked carrots.
Hmm.
So the nurse is like, you should take like lozenges or fruit chews or something to kind of get that taste out of your mouth. And I'm trying to find the picture of it on my phone.
If you find it, you can try to flash it up there. As you're doing that, though, Matt, I'm wondering since that time, when and how long did it take for you to feel pretty good again? Because it seemed like after the first time, life was normal. Did life get normal after the second time?
That's what the cells look like.
Okay.
That was day of transplant. I'm coming up on my 4-year birthday tomorrow. So feel free to send me birthday cards, everybody. I like gift certificates to Under Armour or to Amazon. And you can DM or post in the comment section and I can send you my email. But I just love birthday cards because that essentially, Curt, was a birthday. I mean, I got to a point where my seriously comment or email me and send me birthday cards. So I love getting birthday cards. My email is mgbishop2@gmail.com. And then if you want to send me a $5 Under Armour or Amazon gift card as a gift, I like gifts as well. But I'm sorry, that was stupid.
Well, everybody likes gifts, and I wouldn't be surprised if you get a few. It seems like you deserve it. So you get a few birthdays in a year with all that you've been through. Going back to my other question, did things get normal again?
Well, I had to be quarantined. So all my blood counts were at 0. So I was cancer free on May 5th, right? So that was the second time I beat cancer. And then May 6th, I had my transplant. And then I had to be quarantined where I couldn't leave my room on unit 5C, which is like a second home to me. I joke, it's my secondary address. Because since April of 2016, I spent over 2.5 to 3 years in the hospital. I mean, just drink that in, right?
It's not where you want to be hanging out that much, but you were.
Summer of 2016, summer of 2017, I spent the entire summers at the hospital. Straight. So that's, you think, you go in the hospital for something for a couple days and then you leave, right?
Yep.
I was in the hospital for 2.5 months straight. In the same room, same floor. Couldn't go anywhere. And the biggest thing I could do is go down in the lobby or go outside in a wheelchair. Masked. I had oxygen in my nose. I had people having to push me. But after transplant, it was 2 weeks straight where I was quarantined in my room. So we think about the quarantine we are in right now
Yeah.
with coronavirus. Man, I've been living that for 4 years. So I have during the coronavirus, I have a very different outlook and mentality that a lot of people do. And people get upset about me, Curt. They're like, why do you have the attitude you have? Why do you have the attitude that you have while going through all of this? And I said, because I've been living it for 4 years. This isn't anything new to me. Having to be quarantined or whatever, it's not new to me. And I mean, that's why I have the mentality that I have. I'm very laissez-faire right now. And some people are like, oh, we get it. Like one of my doctors said, you have a totally different perspective than someone else. Because they're just since the coronavirus hit and they've had to be quarantined or self-distancing or whatever, it's just been a couple of weeks for them. It's been 4 years for me.
Does anything scare you right now then? Because obviously a lot of people are in a different mindset when it comes to fear because of what has been going on. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of anything at this point with what you've been through?
I'm afraid of getting sick again because that means I'd have to go in the hospital again. But I don't let it run my life. So when you say, what am I scared of? Still roller coasters. Don't get me near one of those, man.
I got over my fear of roller coasters, so maybe it's still possible for you.
How'd you do it?
Oh, I think the biggest thing was realizing that I'm not going to die. So if I'm not going to die, maybe it's actually fun. But normally I would go through it and just be afraid that something awful would happen. Now I just think, oh, I'll probably be okay and it'll be fun. And that's why little kids, I think, have fun mostly on those and a lot of other people. I'm going to throw some comments on the screen at the bottom. I'm asking for comments or questions for you. So I'll throw them up there quickly just so you see who's out there watching, saying hi. Joan.
Oh, I'm Joan. That's my wife's aunt. She's a sweetheart. She lives up in Fargo.
And then we got a mutual friend, Brian, previous guest of the podcast twice, one of the rare.
There you go.
He's
Brian, tell you what, man, fun story about Brian Pyatt is my freshman year, hockey season, Husky Productions. Brian was the color commentator. Rob Hudson was play-by-play. And here I am, this scrawny freshman as their stats guy. And Brian, if you're out there, I want to say that wasn't for me, you wouldn't have sounded so good because I was feeding this dude stats, like feeding him stats. And we would sit at get-togethers with our friends, with our UTVS friends, whoever's house it was. We would sit and talk about that weekend series or whatnot that the Huskies were playing. And yeah, we'd sit and I'd be like a little sponge with my weekly notes from Tom Nelson and SCSU Athletics, and he'd say, what stat should I put in? What should I talk about this? Or should I talk about that? So, hi, Brian. Miss you, buddy.
A couple more here, and then we'll get back to the conversation, maybe drop a few more in later. I don't know Scott.
Oh, DJ Big Scott. He worked at KVSC when I worked there. We took some of the same classes. So what's up, Scotty?
And he says, great to see you're telling your story, Matt. You continue to be an inspiration to my mom. And I do want to get into what you're working towards inspirationally here. I would like you, though, to kind of finish up the other. There's been so much more that you've dealt with in the last few years. Kind of wrap up the story that brings us to now, and then what you're looking to do with all that you've been through.
Yeah, so been through a lot, especially even the past year. What's today? We got May 5th. So on May 28th of 2019, I was just feeling off, and I ended up having to have my wife drive me down to the hospital, to the ER, and I slipped into a coma, and I was in a coma for 5 days. So I don't remember anything from May 28th of 2019 to June 3rd of 2019. So it's 5 days. And in that 5 days, I don't remember it, but my uncle was there and he took pictures. I was able to open my eyes because June 2nd of 2019 was my wife's and I's first wedding anniversary. So we had to celebrate our first wedding anniversary with me in a coma. I woke up enough where we have a picture of it. I'll maybe try to find that and flash it to everybody watching. But I woke up to a picture of Katie and I was laying in my hospital bed, and I opened up my eyes just enough to take a picture on our first wedding anniversary. I don't remember it at all. I just have to talk about it, honestly, because it's 5 days I don't remember. I'll never get back. And yeah.
And from there, I know it did not look promising either. Once you found the hospital.
No, my excuse me. I'm sorry, it's hard to remember. But no, I don't remember. I don't remember that time. And God got me through it, and it was crazy. But I got through it, and here it is. I'll try to get it to where the viewers at home can see it.
And for the audio version later, I'll get these photos from you, Matt, and put those up. Wow.
That was June 2nd of 2019. That was my wife and I's first wedding anniversary. And if you go, that was he's 5 now, my nephew. He was there with me. I don't remember that at all, but he was 4 at the time. He's my little buddy. He's my second favorite person, along with my wife. See him?
Yeah, I see him on a lot of your Facebook posts.
His name is Landon. He's my sister's son. And he was there with me. And I don't remember this picture at all. This was my parents. My dad, Mike, right here. And then my mom, Kathy, over here. That was on June 2nd. I don't remember that at all. I woke up completely the next day on June 3rd, which was my brother's birthday. My brother he dislikes hospitals with a passion, but he spent his entire birthday, man. He brought my parents food, and it was him and my parents alongside my bed, and I was there with a intubator in my mouth, and that was keeping me alive. And then just day after day, it's kept getting better. But now I'm healthy and I'm writing a book. I started writing the book in fall of last year, and I'm getting to a point where hopefully it'll be published and released sometime in the next couple of years.
As you're writing a book for the first time, something I've never done and I know is probably quite the project, what are some of the main points that you're trying to bring out and tell the story of as you're piecing this thing together and writing it?
Well, I truly want to inspire and encourage people in any walk of life. I want to inspire you and encourage you. I want you to read my story. I want you to hear my story and be able to relate to it in some way. The big quote and takeaway I take from it is from like the Rocky movies where he says, it's not how hard you can get hit and get knocked down and how many times you get knocked down, but how many times you get back up and continue fighting. The book is called The Heart of the Fighter, because a lot of people consider me to be quite the fighter. Like when they talk to me and I talk to them, they're like, man, Matt, you've really fought through a lot. You're a fighter, aren't you? And I took that and along with my manager and some feedback from other people, we've kind of spun it into the title being The Heart of a Fighter. And Paul Allen of people who know K-Fan, they know the Vikings, they know Canterbury Park, they know Paul Allen. Paul and I have been friends for over 10 years, and he agreed to write the foreword, which is pretty huge.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Vikings fans will know who Paul Allen is. Anybody who listens to K-Fan.
I think
there's my buddy.
Hashtag means Bishvox. Which is it?
Bishvox is my nickname. Justin Adamski, you're my main man. Justin and I have been best friends for 13 years. Justin has been with me through thick and thin. We became best friends in high school, Go Bengals, at Blaine. He would be with me at St. Cloud State, coming up to visit me. He knows plenty of UTVS people. But, man, Justin, you tuning in, that's awesome. He's been up in the press box at Canterbury. He's been in the tower. His nickname at Canterbury is Tower Tommy. But if there's one person other than my parents, my wife, my siblings, that I would consider a brother, Justin Adamski is my guy. Him and his girlfriend, actually, he works for the Blaine Police Department, and him and his girlfriend brought me, because I can't go to grocery stores because I'm immunosuppressed, but his girlfriend works at Cub, and they brought me a wealth. I'm kind of addicted to Mountain Dew, so
hey, or you are?
I am. Baja Blast, Code Red is my jam. So that's another endorsement I'm trying to get for my book. So Mountain Dew, anybody who knows anybody with PepsiCo or Mountain Dew, and you want a story about someone you want to endorse your brand, I'll go anywhere. I'll post any video. I'll take any picture with the Mountain Dew, Diet Mountain Dew, Code Red, Baja Blast, anything like that. I'm your guy.
Well, I actually do know some people that work with Burnix Pepsi in the St. Cloud area. So I'll at least make that step in that direction for you and see if anything can come from it.
Hey, man, you got me the job with the Beatles. In our industry, it's all about, who you know, and, and it's a network, man. It's all about who you know. And I mean, my character. And I think that's the biggest thing with people and with your show is you want people of high character. It's not just some guy. Like, me, not just as Matt Bishop, but me behind the scenes. Me as a person. And
I call your energy level was like, I know you maybe have more limitations to fight through now, but back in the day, your energy level around everything you were involved with was so incredibly high. It's like, I didn't have that. I wish I did. I want to learn from you. And that's what I do when I bring people on the show. There's something or many things I've learned from someone that I feel like other people need to meet this person. So here I am introducing you to my audience, and I'm sure some of your audience is getting introduced to me through this as well.
Kurt's a good guy. He has been. I always love to pay for everything, and with you, guys like Brian Pyatt, guys like Ryan Soul, and rest in peace, guys like Tyler Bieber. We miss him terribly, but you took him under my wing, and you took me under your wing, and I was this little guy. I mean, I was taller than all of you, but you really took me under your wing. I was a freshman. You were juniors or sophomores, and you saw how much I loved what I was doing, how much I loved sports and radio and TV. And wait, what was Soul's comment?
His question, Ryan Soul, you just mentioned, ask Bish which model of car he used to hide. He used to hide after our UTVS party got disbanded. I don't know anything about that. I remember parties back in the day, but your parties might have happened after my parties.
I hid under Tyler Bieber's Honda in his garage. I was 18 at the time.
Causing some trouble for you, Bish.
Party's breaking up, Matt. Bish, you gotta hide. So I hid under Tyler Bieber's Honda, like Civic or something, in his garage, and they forgot about me for an hour. And then Tyler Sanford comes in the garage. He goes, "Are you still under there?" It's like, "Yeah, can I get out now?" He goes, "Oh, you could have gotten out like half an hour ago." Tyler Bieber's house, I hid behind a couch in the basement, and I heard the cops come down, and then finally they're like, "Are you still down there? You can come up now. Cops are gone." So never went to jail though.
Good. Well, congratulations. Don't ever go to jail, Bish. You don't need to.
But I've grown. People hear that, and a lot of people may be like, "Wait, what?" And for those people, I know there's a lot of you on Facebook, whatever, watching. I've grown up a lot. I married a great young woman, and I'm a God-fearing man. And there's my wife. She tuned in.
Yeah, Katie left a message. Hi, Maddie B. Proud of you. Because one of the reasons I know you told me that you're writing this book and you call it The Heart of the Fighter is, yeah, fighters need to fight a lot of fights, but there's always people in their corner. And obviously you have several people that without them, I don't know what would be going on with you right now, but it seems like you've needed people at times and they've been there for you.
So picture a boxing ring, and I'm in the ring, throwing the punches, but there's those people in the corner that when that round is over, and I've had like 13 rounds. I think my book is going to be about 13, 14 chapters, but you go to the corner and you need someone to, get you cleaned up, or speak those words of encouragement to you to keep fighting. And then so you've got those initial people in your corner, And then you've got those people in the front row, those VIPs, you know, that you can, you're in the ring doing the fight, but you can out of the corner of your eye, you can see them in that front row. And I have plenty of those. But people like my beautiful wife, my loving parents, my in-laws, Pete, Mary, my siblings, Andrea and Stephen, and my brother-in-law, Andrea's husband, Brian, and my little nephew, who you guys got to see, Landon. And if you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, you'll see more pictures of Landon and my wife than of anybody else. Katie always jokes that Landon's her favorite person in the world, but after remind her that obviously my wife's my favorite person, but let's be honest, Landon's a close second. Justin's probably, in there in the top 5. My parents are in the top 5. My friend Nick Sutton, who you'll read about a lot in the book, is in the top 5, top 10. Without him, he was one of my groomsmen. Without him, I wouldn't be where I am. But it's a lot of people, man. My medical team at the U of M, a lot of nurses I'm Facebook friends with. So shout out 5C. I'm horrible with this camera. 5C. You're like family to us. And I'm friends with a lot of nurses who will hopefully see this. They've kept me alive, man. My in-home nurse, Brittany, through Fairview, she's kept me alive. My in-home physical therapist, Lori, and now Trisha, they've kept me alive. It's those people, man.
I'm going to put a few more comments up here, and we have one or a couple more topics I want to get to before we finish today. But a lot of comments coming in, and Josiah has sent a few of them. He says, Matt needs to know that he may have a lot of people there for him, but every update he posts on social media is a source of encouragement he puts out to others. So many days I read his updates and I'm blown away by his drive, and I'm left encouraged. So you've had Caring Bridge posts for a long time.
What's up, Joe?
I've seen those for a long time. And before we go, we'll make sure all of your social accounts that we get those out.
You want to hear a crazy number?
I do.
I started my Caring Bridge in 2012 when I got cancer. I still write posts a couple times a week, and my Caring Bridge has been visited over 430 some thousand times.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're hearing from people all over the world, people you've never met? Is it connecting to all these people?
My old boss, his mom, who lives out in California, never met her, never talked to her. Mrs. Hogan, she's out there in California. She's followed me on Caring Bridge from day one. People who my parents have gone to high school with, never met them. They've followed me on Caring Bridge. Families I now know I've never met before. They've commented on my posts. Like, people are seeing my story, and I've never met them in my life.
We have time for a few more comments here. I'm going to put one more on the screen, then I want to get to our next topic. This one is from Derek. He says, you're an amazing inspiration to so many, Matt. I'm glad I had the chance to call a few Husky games and do a few interviews with you. What was your favorite Husky baseball moment?
Oh, man. There's a lot of them. I think watching practices in the Husky Dome, when they be off season, and then watching games at both Joe Faber Field. I can't think of what the other field's called.
Dick Putz Field.
Putz. I broadcasted games both places, so I can't think of one specific game, but one player I can think of is Jordan Smith, who played there at St. Cloud State.
Yeah, he
He's
also
so
played
good.
Wilmer Stingers in the Northwoods League, and I think he was drafted by the Cincinnati Reds organization, maybe. And he played pro ball for a while. But yeah, there's
Indians.
okay.
Cleveland Indians.
There you go. Wrong, right state, wrong team with red colors.
He was an all-star in 2010 with the Stingers and one of the best baseball players I've ever seen. And Wilmer Paper actually wrote an article about him just a couple of weeks ago.
Well, let's talk a little more about sports, because sports have been a big part of our lives. I guess now I'm less into sports overall than I have been at this point in my life, but I'm still really into some sports. But right now, there's no sports. And I'd imagine over the years, sports has been one of the things that you've turned to for some entertainment and some joy, even when joy was maybe harder to find with some of your challenges. So what's your life like right now without sports to watch? And what are your thoughts when they come back?
Thank goodness for The Last Dance on ESPN. I'll look forward to that every week. I love watching, I have ESPN Plus, so I love watching old 30 for 30s. Some of my favorite 30 for 30s are the Celtics Lakers rivalry, the Bad Boys, a Requiem for the Big East, as far as college basketball is concerned. Yeah, that's kind of how I get my fill. I listen to K-Fan 9 to noon almost every day. So, my boy PA, shout out to you. He's been one of my mentors. John Krasinski with The Athletic. Him and I have been talk a lot. Jim Peterson. He was an assistant coach with Lynx when I was there in 2014. Him and I have formed a really good relationship. But we talk. He's hooked me up a lot with Timberwolves games, and we talk about Wolves and Lynx and basketball and things like that. So I just try to watch as much sports content as I can on TV or on any type of things. Yeah, that's kind of where I get my fill.
And when it comes back, whenever it comes back, it's going to be so different, kind of fascinatingly so, but only for a while, maybe, when these teams are playing in front of mostly or completely empty stadiums. It'll be kind of
weird,
neat to see, because we'll be seeing something new, but then it'll be like, oh boy, I don't know if this is even what I wanted to be doing. I don't know. I'm curious. I'm anxious for it to get going and to see it and let as many things get back to normal safely when that time is upon us. I guess in the meantime, we'll keep watching some old stuff, and I'll keep listening to a bunch of podcasts. That's my thing.
Yeah. I like watching like mid-90s basketball, like Garnett era, 97-03, because that's when I kind of got into sports. I was like 8, 9 years old, and I knew I wanted to be a sports broadcaster when I heard Kevin Harlan broadcasting Timberwolves games. That's when I wanted to get into sports broadcasting. I was like 10 years old or something. And it's very rare where someone knows what they want to do at such an early age. But man, I was always watching The Last Dance. Memories flood back. I always cheered for the Pacers in the East. Like, I always wanted the Pacers to beat the Bulls. And in the West, I always cheered for, obviously, the Timberwolves, and then the Jazz, and the Timberwolves Kings rivalries were always super fun.
You mentioned Kevin Harlan, and you said that's the inspiration for you to become a sports broadcaster. I'm pretty sure he was the inspiration for my brother to be a sports broadcaster. And then my brother Chuck got into it, and I kind of tagged along. I never really wanted to, and then eventually I did anyhow. And eventually I wanted to, but it was Chuck liking Kevin Harlan first. So I guess that is where it all ties back together for you and I, and for us to get into broadcasting. Matt, let's go to my final segment. Let's do my personal growth segment. I know so much of this conversation is about your growth and getting through a lot of challenges, but if you can, tie it up into one big bow and however you want to describe it, and explain your personal growth story and the message that you'd want someone to know from you right now.
Right now, I just want people to know that, you know, no matter how hard things may seem, man, if you have that support system, if you have that fighter mentality, you'll be able to get through it. You're going to get knocked down, but it's all about not getting knocked down, but getting back up and keep fighting. Continue to fight, whether it's health, whether it's your job or anything. Just keep fighting and focus on just growing as a person. Allow yourself to be humble. I've had to learn a lot about humility because I've had to rely on other people. I've been very helpless at times where I couldn't do anything myself simply because I physically couldn't do it. I've had to rely on other people, and thankfully, you know, God puts people in our lives where we need to rely on others. But at the same time, man, if my story can encourage one person, if I can encourage one person, whether it's through this podcast, whether it's through my book coming up, hopefully to be released within the next couple of years, then it'll be worth it, you know?
I think it's helping more than one person already, but one's always a good baseline, just to make it worthwhile, to know that what we're doing, what each of us as an individual is valuable to someone else. That's exciting for me. I want to do anything that can help someone else. And I'm glad that that's a perspective you share, and your story is one that deserves to be told. And as you keep getting healthier and stronger and reaching more people, I think the impact of your story is going to keep on growing. And for people that are catching this right now, I want to make sure that they can find you on all the social platforms. Facebook, I think anyone watching this right now mostly is already probably on Facebook, although I will release this on YouTube later and over the podcast as well. Matt Bishop, pretty easy to find on Facebook at the moment. You're wearing a Superman shirt. Where else can people find you?
Rocking my Under Armour shirt, Under Armour t-shirt, Under Armour hat. You can find me on Twitter. It's at Matt Bishop 2. So at Matt Bishop 2 on Twitter. Instagram is, I think it's at MG Bishop 2. So MG Bishop 2. That's on Instagram. And then search me on YouTube. Search Matt Bishop, or I think it's Bish SCSU on YouTube. I'm starting to try to get back into the YouTube game. And then at the end of the summer, I'll start podcasting just as a hobby, just for fun. And I'll have more info at that, because everyone needs a hobby, right, Curt?
Yeah, for sure. I've been working for a while, so working on this podcast and trying to do things differently and better is been important for me to constructively use my time, knowing that I have more time than usual. And if not at this moment, I think we all find those times in our lives where we can probably find a hobby, work on something, get better at something. And I'm excited whenever someone has something going on and they want to tell me about it.
And then my email is mgbishop 2. Gosh, I'm horrible with this. 2 at gmail.com. mgbishop2 at gmail.com. I'm an extrovert, man. I love just talking to people. I love hearing from people. and having just conversations, you know, and those are ways to get a hold of me. The book is going to be called The Heart of the Fighter by Matt Bishop, forward by Paul Allen, Vikings radio play-by-play, key fan radio host, Canterbury Park announcer. He'll be writing the forward, and hopefully the release time will be within the next year or two.
I look forward to it, Matt. Can't wait to see you get that to completion and reaching more people than you ever have before. Anyone that's seeing the end of this conversation now or listening to it, please share either the live video that we're working on right now or the podcast.
Share, retweet, whatever.
Yeah.
Email me.
Great for Matt. Great for me.
Love getting emails.
Spread the word. And as you know, we're all working on something, hopefully. And if we're not, we will someday. And I like to encourage everybody to find something that they think is important. And I knowing that you're writing this book was an extra reason to ask you on my podcast. And I'm really looking forward to just knowing that you've got this thing you're working on that's important. And when it's out, that'll be a really great thing, Matt.
Hey, good luck with the podcast, man. It's been great to watch you so far, and can't wait to see what you do with it.
I appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for joining me today, and thanks everyone for the comments.
Thank you, guys.